Hi, and welcome to the Reality to Ridiculous channel. Thanks for spending a few minutes here with our content. I'm Dave, and I would like to examine the similarities between Satan and Santa. Now, stay with me here. I'm not saying that they're the same thing or the same guy. I'm just going to take a look at the similarities, origin, and evolution of the characters through legends, fables, and lore. I believe that it is quite possible that they were both derived from the same arcane legend or various amalgamations of legends. They were both discovered by Christianity around the same time in the same region. It is documented that when Christians encountered Zoroastrianism and heard of Satan, that some of them realized that it was a great tool to curb bad behavior in the local population. Some of those Christians are said to have felt that the idea of Satan was too harsh and separated themselves from the group who adopted Satan as the source of punishment for evil in the world. This is probably the same group that first softened the character and developed the idea of a reward for good Santa type character. Let's start with a quick look at some of these historical characters. Early Jewish conceptions of Satan were impacted by Angra Mainyu, the Zoroastrian spirit of evil, darkness, and ignorance. In the Septuagint, the Hebrew accuser Ha-Satan in Job and Zechariah is translated by the Greek word diabolos, which means slanderer, the same word in the Greek New Testament from which the English word devil is derived. They were both discovered by Abrahamic religions around the same time in the same region. It is documented that when they encountered Zoroastrianism and heard of Satan, that some of them realized that it was a great tool to curb bad behavior in the local population. Some of them are said to have felt that the idea of Satan was too harsh and separated themselves from the group who adopted Satan as the source of punishment for evil in the world. This is probably the same group that first softened the character and developed the idea of a reward for good Santa type character. Let's take a quick look at some of these historical characters. Sinterklaas. This is the character adopted in Belgium, Luxembourg, and northern France, as well as some territories of the former Dutch Empire including Aruba and Curaçao. The feast of Sinterklaas celebrates the name day of St. Nicholas on December 6th. The feast is celebrated annually with the giving of gifts on St. Nicholas Eve. This provides us with the likely origins of the modern-day Christmas Eve. St. Nicholas of Myra was an early Christian bishop of Greek descent during the time of the Roman Empire. Because of the many miracles attributed to him, he is also known as Nicholas the Wonder Worker. Over time, religions have allowed the lore of Santa Claus to be confused with that of St. Nicholas, simply because it was in their best interest to do so. This allowed them to attract more people to their religion. During the Germanic occupation of the Netherlands in World War II, many of the traditional Sinterklaas rhymes were rewritten to reflect the actions and influence of the Allied soldiers. Most soldiers carried bars of chocolate to give to the people they encountered, and Allied planes also dropped boxes of candies. Both of these tributes were intended to gain favor with the local populations, and usually did. Here we have another example of how the story was intentionally altered to include candy as a reward. The character Kris Kringle comes from an Americanized pronunciation and spelling of Christkindl, meaning the Christ child. This is attributed to Martin Luther at the Protestant Reformation in the 16th to 17th century in Europe. Many Protestants adopted this gift bringer, and the date of gifts changed from December 6th to December 24th, the Christmas Eve. Here we see the intentional changing of the date of the seasonal celebration to match the winter solstice and pre-existing pagan festivals. Yulepuki, the Yule Buck, is an evil goat-like creature who didn't bring presents and demanded that children behave. Winter festivals were held to keep him away, hearkening back to early pagan beliefs in appeasing evil deities. But his image was later softened, and the legend was changed to more closely resemble the American Santa Claus. In Japan, Hotaisho is the Japanese equivalent of Santa Claus, a Buddhist monk who carries a big sack on his back and delivers gifts to children between December 24th and January 4th. He is often depicted as a cheerful, jolly character with eyes in the back of his head, who is all-seeing and watches to make sure children are being good. Mikuláš, sometimes called Saint Miklos, is the character celebrated in Hungary, Romania, Slovenia, Czechia, Slovakia, Croatia, and Poland. If you are good, he will bring you treats on December 6th. If you are bad, his mischievous elf companion Krampus will leave a switch for you. A switch is a wispy thin branch often used as a whip. This is meant to indicate that the child should be punished by being struck with it. Variants of this belief have been altered, softening the story to Krampus just leaving bad gifts like onions, raw potatoes, or a lump of coal. There are several legends of companions of the gift-giving characters such as Krampus, Zwart Piet, and Pierre Fouettard, who all punish and abduct children who are bad, clinging to the idea of punishment for bad behavior, while still offering a reward for good behavior, but intentionally drawing a clear separation between the friendly reward for good characters and attributing the joy of the season to them. The idea is that these Santa characters are all the same and are all nice is just a recently created fantasy, mostly attributed to Hollywood. So let's run through some pretty basic comparisons between these Santa and Satan characters side by side. The first similarity is the spelling of the names. These are anagrams. They use the same letters in different places, A-A-N-S-T. A coincidence? Perhaps. But it is more likely that one is an intentional misspelling meant to divide the stories and characters. That seems reasonable to me. Next, we find the famous red suits. They both are very well known for a bright red suit. Red was discovered to have a more stimulating effect on visual activity and the autonomic nervous system. This is a very intentional, attention-grabbing choice of color. Both of these characters see you when you're sleeping and know when you're awake. Yup, they are both creepy, stalker-type dudes. Santa keeps a naughty and nice list. Satan does not. So apparently Satan has a better memory than Santa. Each of these characters lives in a faraway, desolate, inhospitable place. Santa lives at the North Pole in the freezing cold, and Satan lives in hell on a lake of fire. Opposites in temperature, but exactly the same as far as limiting one's chances of escape from either, or one's chances of discovering their hideout strongholds. It sounds a lot like a Hotel California situation for both of these psychopaths. Let's look at their assistants. Under has minions who work as slave labor, Santa has his elves and Satan has his demons. Neither get paid, both are worked tirelessly, and they all seem to be unable to leave. There's plenty of historical stories of exploitation and slavery. Both of these characters have adopted this equally. Now, as far as magical powers go, both Santa and Satan are alleged to have supernatural powers, but neither of these demigods has the power of an actual god. So they can mess with the world and the people in it, but whatever happens, a god can fix it. Convenient? Yes. Eerily similar? Also yes. Another similarity, Santa has the ability to cover the whole earth in one day. Satan has the ability to cover the whole earth every day. We are told the evil is all around us all the time, and if you have to put a face on evil, you need a devil with a face like Satan. But like a lot of religious lore, there is forgiveness for those who behave properly. This brings us to the carrot and the stick. Santa rewards you for being good, Satan punishes you for being bad. This is essentially the same outcome from a different action. One negative, one positive. A psychology major can delve into this deeper, but I won't pretend to know more than I actually do in that realm. To me, it's just a different way to achieve the same goal. Moving on to the antlers and hooves, Santa is known for antlers and hooves on reindeer. Satan is depicted with horns and hooves. It's just a different way of illustrating the same thing, adopted from the same story. Most Santa characters carry a staff. Satan carries a pointy staff, a pitchfork. You can't have Satan carrying a religious-looking hooked staff like the Pope or Moses are often pictured with. So when you change the story a bit, you change the staff to something more menacing. In early lore, people didn't have weapons in their homes to protect themselves. They would have used the best improvised weapon that they had lying around, a hay fork or pitchfork. This was the most menacing thing that most scribes were aware of or had actually used at the time, and seems to be why it was incorporated as a change to the original story. Now to deal with a little wordplay. Santa flies in a sleigh, Satan slays and flies. At this point, I have to believe that whoever was translating the story was getting carried away and just wanted to have some fun with this one. Flies in a sleigh, slays while he flies. Get it, bro? It's awesome funny, right? His supervisor probably said, "You've done some good work so far, so I'm going to let this one go. But lay off the opium. I don't want you to write anything else for the rest of the day, and we're going to circle back to this tomorrow." My list wraps up with bankruptcy. Santa is going to make you financially bankrupt. Satan is going to make you morally bankrupt. Now, I've never seen Satan make a person behave worse, but we have statistics on how many more people go into bankruptcy in the months after Christmas. Is one worse than the other? Yes. The one which is demonstrably true is worse than the one for which there is no evidence at all. Something fairly bad which is happening is worse than something bad which is not happening. Santa flat out loses this one. Turning back to the common similarities, both the image of Santa and Satan are most probably based on the lore of Father Time. He is depicted in his flying sleigh with a white beard, scythe, and hourglass. Father Time is also the basis for the Grim Reaper, who uses the scythe to collect dead souls which time has run out on. But all of these figures can clearly be traced back to Cronus and Saturn, the oldest of the gods, whose annual festival, Saturnalia, was a time of celebration, visits to friends, and gift-giving. During Saturnalia, fir boughs were brought indoors for their fragrant properties during the winter when families were stuck indoors together for long periods of time. It didn't refresh the air, but it probably masked the odor like a pine tree car air freshener. Ancient Egyptians, Romans, and Celtic Druids decorated their homes with evergreen boughs to celebrate the winter solstice. During the Yule festival, Vikings decorated their homes with evergreen wreaths and trees. In ancient Germanic and Norse traditions, the trees were decorated with food and carvings of the gods to encourage the tree spirits to return and bring an end to winter. As the boughs die quickly when cut, the practice of bringing small tree tops indoors was instead adopted. Eventually, people began decorating them, sang songs, and candles were lit. And there we have the pre-Christian origin of the Christmas tree. And that's the end of my list. There's more evidence than just what I have pointed out here, but I'm more interested in creating some food for thought, motivating watchers to do their own investigation, than I am trying to present some sort of closing argument. To me, all the Santa stuff and Christmas gift giving is a bunch of nonsense. If you want to celebrate the people you love, there's no better day to do it than Family Day. The people we care about the most become a part of our family and get treated like family. Buy them gifts because you love them, not because you love Jesus, Santa, Satan, Yahweh, Lucifer, or whoever else. Your family matters more than any myth. Fortunately, Family Day falls after the annual Boxing Day sales, right around the corner from the Consumer Products Show, where new items are released and older products get price reduced. How incredibly convenient, right? Thanks for spending a few minutes here on the Reality to Ridiculous channel. I hope that you enjoyed this presentation. Be well and be good to each other, no matter what season it is or what demi-deity you celebrate. See you next time.